2023 has been an interesting year for sure. It had its ups and downs, but that's normal for any other year. But what is different was the music that came out this year. Can you tell I'm trying to make this video as fast as possible? I of course didn't have the time to check out everything that came out this year because, believe it or not, I do have a life.
Stop the cap!
So I didn't have the privilege to check out every album that I wanted to, but this list contains the 10 best albums from this year that I have heard. Some honorable mentions go to Sprain's Behemoth that was Dilemma's Effigy and Kali Uchis's Smooth Red Moon in Venus. This list would also not contain any EPs, but shout out to Dev Lemon's Maruha and Quadeca. And now let's finally start with the number 10 spot. I wasn't that crazy about Squid's debut album Bright Green Field as I am with O Monolith. On O Monolith, the boys expand the post-punk sound to a whole new level. The songs range from being loud, quiet, beautiful, funky, and just straight up noisy at some points. The main two selling points of this album are the vocals and the instrumentals. The lead vocalist Ollie Judge has such an animated vocal presence on each song. He sounds like a goofy cartoon villain on here, and for me it works. You may not like his vocal style, but I find it quite unique and entertaining. The other thing that I love about this project are the song progressions. Each song flows perfectly and I really don't have much complaints about this whole album. The last two songs are a bit forgettable for me but are still pretty good. If you want a groovy, noisy and funky post-punk album from 2023, Squid definitely has you covered with O Monolith. Slowthai's 2023 record Ugly is his best work to date. He ditched his previous rap sound for this more punk-centric sound that I really do dig on here. The album is filled with depressing and hopeless lyrics and themes. Slowthai's performances throughout the entire project are great and you can really hear the emotion in his voice on every single track. The intro song Yum is a perfect example of this. The industrial rap instrumental matched with Slowthai's angry and frustrated delivery opens the album perfectly. Tourniquet and Selfish are other great examples of the more aggressive and embracive songs on the album, while something like Never Again and 25% Club are more on the calm side of the tracklist. Never Again really showcases Slowthai's ability to make a great storytelling track with a soul-crushing ending. I recommend you to go and listen to this whole album, and with this one try to separate the art from the artist. A psychedelic pop rock album from Lil Yachty? Yeah, seems about right. Yachty is one of my MVPs for 2023 and with this album under his belt, it's no question why. Sure, you can say Yachty really pulls from his influences like Pink Floyd or Tame Impala, but at the end of the day, good music is good music. Just Yachty's vocal style should be enough to give this album a try and to view it as its own thing. Not to mention the genuinely amazing instrumentals and feature performances that also make this album a great listening experience. I genuinely do view this album as a whole experience with Yachty being the mastermind behind everything. He may not be the center of attention in every moment, but he also doesn't need to be. At some points he does let some artists and instrumentals to overshadow him a bit on a song, and that's okay. If it makes for a better listening experience, so be it. And also when Yachty is singing on here, it does sound great with his wiggly vocal effects. Some of my personal highlights on this record are The Black Seminole, The Ride, Pretty, and I've Officially Lost Vision. Great album from Mr. Boat.
40.
The long-awaited sequel to Danny's first big commercial album 30 finally came out this year and I think it's great. Danny is also in running for my MVP of 2023 as he also released another project that you might see later in the video. But on Quaranta, Danny raps in his more lower register rather than his crazy wacky one. And this perfectly complements the more introspective and personal lyrics on the album. If you expect the usual crazy and over-the-top Danny Brown album like Atrocity Exhibition, this definitely isn't that. Quaranta is a lot more laid back in both production and delivery, but I don't mind that. Danny is one of my favorite rappers of all time and this just further commends him into that list. The lyrics are the real highlight of this album as Danny is so open and honest on here. He explores so many interesting themes on here that you wouldn't hear on pretty much any other rap album. The title track is one of my favorite songs from this year, and just please go and listen to this album. If you want a more introspective listen with some great production that is full of charisma, go and listen to 40. After Isaac's departure from the band, a lot of people were a bit skeptical of Black Country New Road's future. After listening to this, I'm really not. Live at Bush Hall is a great album that proves that the band still knows how to make some pretty good music even after the lead vocalist's departure. This project sounds so theatrical and grand, and it doesn't disappoint in any way really. The new vocalists do a great job of portraying emotions and filling that void that Isaac left. The instrumentals are also lush, grand, theatrical, and explosive as ever. I also really like the writing on here, as it's no worse than their previous work. The vocal performances and the lyrics match so well together on here, it's kinda crazy. I was nervous for this album as, you know, the guy ain't on here, but the other band members made this album great and memorable as hell. It's no Ends from Up There or For the First Time, but it's not that far off, to be honest. I still don't fully get the hype with Peng, but with this album, Desire I Want to Turn Into You is such a fun art pop album filled with memorable ass hooks and melodies. As soon as you start the album, you get hit with an absolute banger that is Welcome to My Island. This is one of my favorite songs from this year, and it's also a perfect opener to this album. But the great songs don't end there, we have plenty more on here. Pretty As Possible is great, Sunset is gorgeous, I Believe is so grand, and a deep cut like Butterfly Net is also amazing. Pretty much every song has something to offer on here, will it be through Caroline's expressive vocals or the forward-thinking instrumentals. Fly To You is a straight up drum and bass song that someone like Pink Panthers would sound great over, but instead we have Grimes and Dado doing God's work. Also, one thing that has to be said is that the mixing on here is done to perfection, everything sounds so polished and smooth. Really like this album, and after some time I could see it being even better than it is. After like 20 years, the internet's favorite little secret Penchico finally released their debut album Failed at Maths. I have a whole video about Penchico, so if you want you can go and watch that, but I'm briefly gonna go over why I love this album so much. The production on here is so good. As I said in my Penchico video, their music just sounds nostalgic to me, and this album is no different. It's a really great mix of dream pop, indie rock, trip hop, and glitch pop. Pretty much every song sounds so lush and surreal, it's like I'm running through clouds. The vocals match the music so well, as the main vocalist Owen is one talented MF. His vocal layering and effects work perfectly, and you can really get lost in this album as it's a pretty short listen, clocking in at only 26 minutes. I highly recommend you to go and check this one out as it's pretty short, but it definitely packs a punch. If you enjoyed a certain experimental rap album that also came out this year by two amazing artists, then you are also gonna like this one. Devin, the legendary underground artist that is behind projects like Superflat and The Salmon of Doubt, released his debut album under his new moniker. In 2024, I want to do a deep dive into Devin's work, so I'm gonna keep this one really brief. Iris is a great collection of songs that mainly stays in that experimental hip-hop sound. It's very JPEG Mafia-esque, which Devon doesn't deny. In an interview he stated that his biggest influence for this album was in fact JPEG Mafia. Some people are gonna immediately discount this album because it's a cheap copy of Peggy's work or because of Devin's vocals. I don't find issues with both of these things, as the album is just honestly great. If you like experimental and out-of-the-box production, cryptic lyrics, or interesting vocals, go and check this one out, as it's definitely the least known album on my list. Surprise, surprise, a white guy likes the new Travis Scott album. We waited a good 5 years for this thing and it definitely didn't disappoint. On UTOPIA, we can see Travis take the wheel once again as the main producer on the project. The beats are once again gritty and dirty, but also futuristic and experimental. The mainstream trap sound that was present on Astroworld and Birds is definitely left in the past, and I really like that. UTOPIA is a huge album filled with a bunch of feature guests and insane beats and performances. It's like a blockbuster movie directed by Travis that everyone on this earth knows about. It was a spectacle the moment it came out, and it was an instant classic for me. I love this album for so many reasons. Travis, though still kinda monotone, tries a lot more to sound energetic and just alive compared to his feature output in recent memory. He once again feels like the center stage of his own album despite of all the features that are present on here. Travis's rapping and melodic performances are better than ever, and overall Travis is on his A game here. Despite Travis finally being on his shit again, there are some generational feature performances on here. Tizo brings such an energetic and fun presence on Modern Jam, Drake and Carti bring some of their best performances in a long time on Meltdown and Fiend respectively, Beyonce is great on Del Resto Echoes, and finally Future and Sis on Telekinesis. Enough to make a grown man cry. I would tell you to go and check out UTOPIA, but you've probably already heard it, and now let's finally get to my number 1 spot. If you couldn't tell by my top 3 albums from 2023, I kinda like experimental hip-hop. Both Peggy and Danny are one of my favorite rappers of all time, and when I heard that they were making a collab album together, I couldn't believe it. Their experimental and off-the-wall approach to music is so unique and they work perfectly together. It's like both of their worlds collided perfectly on here and they didn't sacrifice anything. First off, the production on here is insanely creative, forward-thinking, and honestly just impressive. Peggy nailed it once again with the production, as the beats feel otherworldly and creative as hell. Most of the beats were made on this thing and just wow. If you want a more detailed showcase of the album's creation, go and watch the mini doc that the boys put out on Peggy's YouTube channel. Also, one more thing about the production, the sampling on here, it's insane. Peggy is getting to that stage as being seen as one of hip-hop's best producers ever if he continues to make more forward-thinking music like this. Now, the rapping performances from both Peggy and Danny are so sick. They are having so much fun on here and they're talking their shit. Peggy brings these aggressive and tense performances while Danny's more loose and light-hearted. Their styles match so well and they are a match made in heaven. The lyrics are also a highlight of this thing as they are so funny and filled with niche pop culture and internet references. Songs like Lean Beef Patty, God Loves You, and Jack Harlow Combo Meal will have you dying of laughter. This is truly some of the most forward-thinking, creative, innovative, and fun music I've heard in a while. Easily takes the spot for my album of the year. So thank you for watching and thank you for such a great year on YouTube. I'm really having so much fun making videos and I'm not planning to stop anytime soon. If you want to follow me on any other platforms, my Twitter is linked in the description as well as my album of the year page. Subscribe, leave your top 10 albums of the year in the comments, and until next time, bye!